Welcome to the Ask AI channel. Please click the subscribe button so you get all the new episodes. Evolutionary theory in social context. Introduction to social Darwinism. Social Darwinism is a social theory that emerged in the late 19th century, applying the principles of Darwinian evolution to social, political, and economic issues. It is based on the concept of survival of the fittest as observed by Charles Darwin in Nature. The central idea of social Darwinism is that human groups and races are subject to the same laws of natural selection as seen in plants and animals. According to this theory, the weak are diminished and their cultures delimited, while the strong grow in power and cultural influence. Social Darwinists believe that the strong should see their wealth and power increase, while the weak should see their wealth and power decrease. The definitions of weak and strong can vary among social Darwinists, and they also differ on the precise mechanisms that reward strength and punish weakness. Many view stress competition between individuals in laissez-faire capitalism, while others, emphasizing struggle between national or racial groups, support eugenics and/or fascism. Some interpretations of social Darwinism have been used to justify ideologies such as eugenics, nationalism, fascism, or socialism. It's important to note that some groups, including creationists such as William Jennings Bryan, argued that social Darwinism is a logical consequence of Darwinism. However, academics such as Steven Pinker have argued that this is a fallacy of appeal to nature. Historical context. Social Darwinism found its roots in the groundbreaking work of Charles Darwin. His theory of evolution, presented in On the Origin of Species, 1859, suggested that species evolve through natural selection, where organisms with advantageous traits survive and reproduce. Social Darwinists extended these principles to human societies, asserting that societal progress resulted from the survival and advancement of the most capable individuals and groups. Social Darwinism had a significant impact on history, influencing various political, public health, and social movements. It provided a scientific explanation and social justification for racial inequality, cultural exploitation, and laissez-faire capitalist activity. The theory was used to rationalize imperialism, colonialism, racism, and poverty. It was particularly influential during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The most significant impact of social Darwinism was its justification of discriminatory practices and policies against marginalized groups. The idea that some races, ethnicities, and individuals were biologically superior to others led to the belief that those deemed inferior were unworthy of social and economic support. As for the influences of social Darwinism, despite the fact that it bears Charles Darwin's name, it is primarily linked today with others, notably Herbert Spencer, Thomas Malthus, and Francis Galton, the founder of eugenics. In fact, Spencer was not described as a social Darwinist until the 1930s, long after his death. Other theorists like Spencer and Tyler took more influence from discredited Lamarckian ideas of evolution than Darwinian ones. Social Darwinism was also influenced by its social context, specifically by British industrial capitalism at the heart of a global empire. Early thinkers applied evolutionary principles to human societies, paving the way for social Darwinism. Thomas Malthus's population theory. Thomas Robert Malthus, born February 1766 in Westcott, Surrey, England, was an English economist and demographer. He is best known for his theory that population growth will always tend to outrun the food supply and that betterment of humankind is impossible without stern limits on reproduction. This thinking is commonly referred to as Malthusianism. Malthus was educated at Jesus College, Cambridge. He married Harriet Eckersall in 1804 and they had 3 children. His academic career was focused on demography and macroeconomics, and he was a part of the classical economics school. His influences included prominent figures such as David Ricardo, William Godwin, Adam Smith, David Hume, Edward Gibbon, Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Jean-Charles Leonard de Sismondi. Malthus is noted for the Malthusian growth model, an exponential formula used to project population growth. The theory states that the supply of food cannot keep up with the growth of the human population, inevitably resulting in disease, famine, war, and calamity. He was the first to use the phrase struggle for existence. Thomas Malthus's theories had a profound impact on the evolutionary theories of Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. Darwin adopted Malthus's idea of the struggle for existence and used it to develop his theory of evolution. This idea later returned to the social sciences in the form of social Darwinism. However, it's important to note that Malthus himself is not considered a social Darwinist cubed. Social Darwinism, which applies biological concepts of survival of the fittest to sociology, economics, and politics, was largely defined by scholars in Western Europe and North America in the 1870s. This was after Malthus's time, and the principles of social Darwinism significantly differ from Malthus's theory. Malthus passed away on December 29, 1834, in St. Catherine, near Bath, Somerset. His theories continue to influence discussions on population growth and resource scarcity to this day. Charles Darwin's theories on evolution and its impact. Social Darwinism found its roots in the groundbreaking work of Charles Darwin. His theory of evolution, presented in On the Origin of Species, suggested that species evolve through natural selection, where organisms with advantageous traits survive and reproduce. Social Darwinists extended these principles to human societies, asserting that societal progress resulted from the survival and advancement of the most capable individuals and groups. To understand social Darwinism, we must first grasp the foundations laid by Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. Darwin's groundbreaking work in the mid-19th century revolutionized our understanding of biological evolution. Early proponents of social Darwinism extrapolated Darwin's ideas to human societies, suggesting that similar principles governed societal development and progress. Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection, often referred to as Darwinism, is a fundamental concept in biology. It was first published by Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace in a joint presentation of papers in 1858. The theory states that all species of organisms arise and develop through the natural selection of small, inherited variations that increase the individual's ability to compete, survive, and reproduce. Here's an overview of the key principles. 1. Variation. Both genotypic and phenotypic variation exists within all populations of organisms to the power of 1. Some traits are more likely to facilitate survival and reproductive success, and thus, these traits are passed on to the next generation. 2. Heritability. A trait can only influence evolution through natural selection if it is passed on from parents to descendants. 3. Differential survival and reproduction. Natural selection is the differential survival and reproduction of individuals due to differences in phenotype. It is a key mechanism of evolution, the change in the heritable traits characteristic of a population over generations. 4. Descent with modification. Evolution is the cumulative change in the characteristics of an organism or a population over the next generations. It is sometimes summarized as descent with modification. 5. Adaptation. Over time, this process can result in adaptations that specialize organisms for particular ecological niches and may eventually result in the emergence of new species. Darwin described natural selection as analogous to artificial selection, a process by which animals and plants with traits considered desirable by human breeders are systematically favored for reproduction to the power of 1. The union of traditional Darwinian evolution with subsequent discoveries in classical genetics formed the modern synthesis of the mid-20th century. The addition of molecular genetics has led to evolutionary developmental biology, which explains evolution at the molecular level. That was part 1. Please hit the subscribe button and take in the rest of this engaging podcast. Thank you for your support. See you next time.